Welcome into the Roll Jays podcast following Creighton's 71-50 loss to Nebraska in Lincoln. We are brought to you by Pepper Jack's Grill and Pyramid Contractors. We're going to recap Creighton's loss. We're going to take a look at the future of the rest of the season and catch up with Creighton assistant coach Steve Murfeld right here on Big East Energy. If you haven't liked and subscribed to the YouTube channel, please go ahead and do so at BigEastEnergy.com and on YouTube, obviously covering the entire conference. Keep up to date on all things Big East men's and women's basketball on Big East Energy Network today. I mean, there's a lot to get into, but there's not a lot of positives to talk about after this win. We just go back through the starters. Jason Green with just 2 points and came in the first 4 minutes of the game. Blake Harper with just 1 point was very quiet today. Josh Dix with 9 points, all 9 coming in the second half. Nick Graves with 9 points, 6 of those points coming at the free throw line. And Owen Freeman with just 1 shot attempt and 0 points today. Austin Schwartz had a massive second half. He finished with 16 points. Fedor Zugic had 5. Shea Thomas, who got in late into the game, had 2, and Isaac Trout finished with 6. And listen, it is what it is. Nebraska came with an absolutely great game plan today and was able to really hold Creighton outside of the paint, make them take some highly contested jumpers as well as distant three-point shots. Going to talk to Murph and get his thoughts on it. Steve Murfeld's going to join us here shortly over the phone. But Casey Matthews will be on in a minute as well. He's got some family stuff he's trying to attend to before he joins. We'll get his thoughts. Go to get your comments in on YouTube. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this point in the Creighton season. We're going to try to take a look at what exactly Creighton has to do to make a run to March. Obviously, that's a far cry from where we thought we'd be having this conversation at the beginning of December, but it's really starting to shape up into a real conversation. Obviously, the Big East being down has a little bit to do with it as well. And other than Creighton, or other than St. John's and UConn, not really sure where those quad one wins are going to come for the Jays. Obviously, you get K-State next, and they're a Q3 team currently. And like I mentioned, the Big East Georgetown was looking like that could be a possibility, but they got absolutely routed by North Carolina today. So there's a lot of questions about what postseason basketball may look like for this Jays team, and it's starting to shape up like maybe a win in New York is about the best you could hope for at this point, but obviously that's still a long ways away, and there's a lot of basketball yet to be played. I know there was some pretty high tempers at the end of this game with Greg McDermott flirting with a technical foul twice. I mean, the officiating was a bit of a problem today, but it wasn't the reason that Creighton lost. Creighton just couldn't take the lid off the top of the basket, and it kind of feels like if Blake Harper can't contribute to scoring the basketball, this team kind of seems lost at times. I mentioned I love what I saw out of Austin Schwartz, not only just in the second half, but in the first half as well. He just has a confidence about him that I think this team is missing. I mean, Creighton's largest run of the day today was a 6-0 run, and Austin Schwartz accumulated 4 of those points. So there's clearly an issue at the 5 with Owen Freeman scoring 0 points, and Karam Conan also scoring 0 points, and you kind of got to figure out what you have there. I mean, Aleska Dimitrovic is sitting there. He's a freshman, and he is redshirting, but in two completely different dudes. Hudson Greer was talking about redshirting also. That got taken off of him. You've got to find somebody that's going to give you a little bit of spark offensively. And now Owen's health is always going to be a concern because of the last 2 seasons, but you've got to get more production out of that position. Like it's not as simple as, well, you got to replace Ryan Kalkbrenner, which is absolutely true, but replacing Ryan Kalkbrenner and getting some level of production are 2 completely different things. And Owen struggled mightily today, but it's not just today, right? But it's I think it's important to point out that Creighton also has as many non-conference losses this year at this point that they did last year. So there is still a lot of possibilities for this thing to be turned around. Now, it looks a lot different, and there are some clear issues with this roster and rotation-wise, but you've got to have a trust and faith in the guys at the top. It's not just Greg McDermott. You've added Alan Hust back to the equation. There are a lot of possibilities for this team down the stretch, and listen, some of them are good or some of them are really, really bad. When you constructed this roster in the offseason, you really wanted the ability to shoot the basketball. And I think everybody felt really good about the ability to do that with the addition of Josh Dix, with the addition of Blake Harper. And I think a lot of people expected to see more out of Owen Freeman around the rim. And now, listen, Casey and I talked about this at halftime. If you didn't catch it, there were 4 times in the first half that guys had the ability to lob it up to the rim to Owen Freeman on an open look, and the Jays point guards missed him. It was both Nick Graves and excuse me, and Ty Davis both had an opportunity in those spots multiple times to make those plays happen. Now, listen, a couple things. Owen obviously would have had made the basket, and you would have needed a Husker defender not to close late. But it just felt like there were a lot of missed opportunities in this game, and I don't want to just hone in on Owen, but obviously in the NIL era, and when you're replacing arguably the greatest Blue Jay of all time and taking his position, there's going to be some thoughts around it. So I'm not discouraging Jays fans from being upset. That was a really bad performance. I'm cautioning people to still have a level of optimism around this team because there is proof in the pudding with this coaching staff that it can be done. Now, they've never done it with this roster and this group of guys. So if you want to hold your thoughts and say I've got some doubts, I think that's a fair assumption. Obviously, not having Hudson Greer for this game specifically, it's a big deal. Now, I'm really excited to talk to Steve Murfeld and get his thoughts on what the future looks like, because it kind of feels like Austin Swartz, who, after talking to a couple of the coaching staff, whether it be Alan Huss or Trey Ziegler or whoever, have mentioned Hudson specifically and have mentioned Austin specifically and talked about their moxie and what they bring to the table from a confidence standpoint. But you've also got to find a way to, I don't want to say finesse because that's not the right word, but you got to find a way to keep the rest of this roster engaged while you're making some changes also, because if you pull the parachute now, there could be some guys that fold, and obviously that's a mentality thing, right? But you've got to find a way, because you need this entire roster. Like we've talked about this all off season, that you can't play 11 to 15 guys every single night. Well, it kind of feels like this coaching staff wants to play 11 to 15 guys every single night, because if you throw Hudson into the equation, obviously some of the bench guys got in tonight because the game got out of hand, but it feels like this roster is going to need you to play around 11 players, because there's no way Owen and Karam are playing north of 20 minutes. I don't think they can. Neither one of them have done that their entire career. I think that's a far stretch to ask them to do so now. But if you have the ability to move an Isaac Trout to the 5 or move a Jason Green to the 5, and I've been very adamant. I think this team is going to go as far as Jason Green brings them along to go to, because I think he's that important. I think he's the glue guy. I think he's the default vocal leader, because he's been here almost the longest of guys that understand the way this program runs. But that's clearly not Jason's personality. So he's going to have to kind of learn how to be a leader on the fly as well. And obviously a guy that won a couple state championships here at Miller North in Omaha, and a guy that's had a lot of success at Creighton, understands what this coaching staff is asking of him. But you need guys to score the basketball. Like Creighton is playing well in transition in the few opportunities they get to. So you got to be better, not only defensively, but stopping offensive rebounds. When you look at what Nebraska did on the glass today, they out-rebounded the Jays 31-26, but massively on the offensive side of the glass. Now, Creighton did a good job of slowing that down in the second half, and a little bit of that was just because Nebraska was late getting back in transition on several different possessions. But it's not one or two things. In the past, you could point at what the Jays' shortcomings were and say, well, if you fix this here, or if you're able to do that there, you'll see it come together. And eventually, obviously, that's exactly what we saw. Creighton was able to turn it around, go on a run in New York, get to the NCAA tournament 2 years in a row. But with this team, you don't have that constant at the 5 that you can say, well, we've got Ryan Kalkbrenner, the rest of it's going to figure itself out. You've got concerns at the 5, you got concerns at the point guard. You've got concern, and listen, the loss of Jackson McAndrews is big, but I don't think I could point at that and say this is the reason this Creighton team is struggling, because they made 16 baskets tonight. That's not going to win you very many basketball games. And listen, I think Nebraska is also a lot better than a lot of people anticipated, clearly before the season started. but maybe even just a few weeks ago. It feels like that Husker team has put it together, and Fred Hoiberg seems like he's done a really good job of figuring out Greg McDermott's system and putting a defensive game plan in place. We're waiting to hear from Creighton assistant coach Steve Murfeld. Hopefully we'll have him when we come back. This is the Roll Jays podcast brought to you by Pepper Jack's Grill and Pyramid Contractors.
Why you need to try Pepper Jack's Grill, the best Philly cheesesteak in America. At Pepper Jack's Grill, we craft your Philly just the way you like it. Fresh ingredients, sizzling on the grill, and endless customization options. Not just Phillies, we've got rice bowls, burritos, nachos, and even vegetarian choices. And don't forget those crispy fries with our famous spicy ranch. With 10 great locations in Omaha, there's a delicious meal waiting for everyone in the family. Pepper Jack's Grill, your Philly, your way.
At Pyramid Contractors, we do it all. From repairing or replacing your roof to updating siding, windows, or gutters. When you have a home improvement project, call Pyramid Contractors.
PyramidRoof.com, never settle for less.
Welcome back into the Roll Jays podcast. Still waiting on Creighton assistant coach Steve Murfeld to call in. Casey Matthews should be joining here shortly as well. I'd love to hear from you. Get your comments in. We'd love to know your thoughts on Creighton's loss to Nebraska today. As Coach Murph just texted me and said he's jumping in the van. We'll be on with us in a minute. Creighton falls 71-50 to Nebraska. Only Austin Swartz ends up in double digits. Nick Graves and Josh Dix finish with 9 from a point standpoint. Also, Swartz grabbed 5 rebounds today, second on the team. Jason Green finished with 6. There's going to be something made about the officiating of this game, and there were some pretty bad ticky-tack calls down the stretch for going Nebraska's way, and I agree with that sentiment. But I think for the folks sitting at home that weren't actually in PBA, clearly by my background, I was not one of those people. I think it's really hard to understand how difficult it is to be an official in that building or in a setting like that, and the home team is just blowing the doors off an in-state rival, and you can make an arguable call. Like there's a lot of influences, and listen, that should never happen in a basketball game. That's just human nature. So if you want to comment about the officiating, I'll hear it. We'll take the comments for that reason. But there wasn't enough bad officiating to dictate a 21-point loss. I think Creighton has a really good chance to have a get right moment against Kansas State coming up. I think the Wildcats are in a lot better or a lot worse shape than I think a lot of people thought they were going to be before this season started. And then obviously you got to get ready for Big East play, and that's a lot different than it has been. I mean, we don't really know what Marquette is up until this point. Xavier got a big win over Cincinnati tonight. As I mentioned, Georgetown falls in a big way to North Carolina tonight. So the Big East is kind of what we thought it was going to be before the season started, minus where we thought Creighton would slate into that equation. UConn is really, really good. I think St. John's is obviously still a really good team. I just don't think they're as good as maybe we thought they were going to be. But just kind of like what we're talking with the Jays, they've got that guy at the top of the program that you feel like can eventually figure it out. And listen, they're still winning in a pretty high clip. And I'm talking about making that Elite Eight Final Four run for the guys in Queens. But it's going to be interesting to see where the rest of the season goes. And Creighton assistant coach Steve Murfeld is going to join us here now. Murph, welcome into the show. Thanks for joining us. Murph, can you hear me?
I got you. Me?
All right, there we go. Murph, obviously a tough loss tonight in a hostile environment. What were some of the positives you took away from this game?
Oh, hell of a way, Jimmy. Up short, did a shot. Keeping it in major. I mean, formal. You tip your.
I think we lost Murph. There are obviously some technical difficulties here. We'll take another quick break and come back. This is the Roll Jays podcast brought to you by Pepper Jack's Grill and Pyramid Contractors.
Why you need to try Pepper Jack's Grill, the best Philly cheesesteak in America. At Pepper Jack's Grill, we craft your Philly just the way you like it. Fresh ingredients, sizzling on the grill, and endless customization options. Not just Phillies, we've got rice bowls, burritos, nachos, and even vegetarian choices. And don't forget those crispy fries with our famous spicy ranch. With 10 great locations in Omaha, there's a delicious meal waiting for everyone in the family. Pepper Jack's Grill, your Philly, your way.
Welcome back in. Steve Murfeld joining us back here on the Roll Jays podcast. Murph, can you hear me?
Here,
Not sure what's going on, Murph. I don't know if it's your phone or our connection.
I can hear you.
Yeah, apologize about that, folks. Steve Murfeld should be joining us here shortly. I'm trying to check our settings here to see if it's something on our end, but it feels like it may be with Coach. Sorry, we'll roll on here. Maybe we won't get Murph tonight. We'll see if he can join the stream. Sorry about that. This is the beauty of doing a live podcast after a loss in a tough situation. We'll see if Murph can join the stream here. See if he could jump in. Obviously, we had some technical difficulties with Murph earlier in the season out in Las Vegas. Hopefully, him being in Lincoln and not necessarily in a completely different state may help the situation. But obviously, we'll get his thoughts on positives and negatives from this game. I mean, there's going to be a lot to unpack, and I'm specifically want to talk to him about Austin Schwartz's performance and the performance of the 5 spot today, because that was it had to be the biggest question coming into this season, right? Because your Ryan Kalkbrenner is gone to the NBA, and he's a 4-time defensive player of the year in the Big East, and looks like Murph is with us now. Murph, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good now. I'm not sure.
Right.
It just kind of sounded like you're underwater there. So,
Well, that's the way. That's kind of the way the whole night went. So I'm not surprised by that.
I don't know. I don't know if you heard me, but I had asked about some of the positives from this game. Obviously, Austin Schwartz has a massive second half. What did you make of his performance?
Yeah, I mean that obviously is a very positive. I mean, Austin is a very talented young man that has the ability to do what he did tonight, and obviously, that's one of the few, I guess, positive takeaways from the game. But first and foremost, I'd like to just say hats off to Coach Hoiberg and his squad. I mean,
Sure.
they have had off to a tremendous start, playing with unbelievable confidence at both ends of the floor. I mean, they're very, very disruptive defensively. Guys totally understand their roles and do a great job filling those roles. And first and foremost, they're extremely connected and really play for each other.
When we talk about the 5 position, I was just talking before you joined about obviously the biggest question mark going into the season, replacing Ryan Kalkbrenner. You bring in Owen Freeman. He's a little banged up. You get Karam late. You get 0 points out of that position today. What do you guys need to see more of out of the center position?
Well, that's a great observation. I mean, obviously, those 2 guys are much better players than they played tonight. And, Owen's played in these kind of environments before. So
Specifically that one, yeah.
yeah. And has had great success in it. He's still not, 100% trusting, coming back from that injury. And not making any excuses, for him by any means, because he'd probably be the first one to tell you that he needs to step his game up in order for us to be successful. And, we have to help each other become better. It's not on one guy. It's not on one position. It's not on one coach. It's not on, one of our students. It's just we as a group have to be better for each other. And we will. I mean, we knew there was going to be some rough spots along the way with this squad, with 9 new guys. But certainly tonight, is a major wake-up call for sure.
One of those new guys is Nick Graves. He played 23 minutes tonight. Ty Davis played 17. Obviously, the score probably dictated that a little bit. Was the plan to give Ty a few more minutes tonight?
Yes and no. I mean, Ty does a really good job of pushing the tempo and, trying to get us opportunities in transition. Nick was missing guys early on and just, was having a difficult time understanding what they were doing with their ball screen defense and then making a play out of it. So, we went to Ty, and I thought Ty did some really good things for us. Obviously, he is one of the leaders on this team. He did some really good things defensively. I thought he got his hands on a lot of balls. His communication was really good. But that goes back to what I said earlier. for us to reach our potential, Nick has to do more than what he's doing. He has to be more vocal. He's got to be more of a leader. He's got to be able to make plays for others. And we've obviously seen flashes and signs of that. But again, give credit to Nebraska. They hounded him and totally swallowed him up with their ball screen defense.
We talked about the offense for the bigs, and obviously defensively they had a tall task tonight in trying to keep Rink Mass and Beer Bacon Gel in check. I felt like Karam is a little bit more physical than maybe we anticipated him being coming into the season. Has that been almost a welcome surprise with how willing he is to kind of get in and get into guys underneath the basket?
Yeah, Karam played some really good minutes for us tonight, and obviously, if you look at the stat sheet, I think he was one of the few guys that was plus in the plus minus
Yeah,
department. And
+7.
yeah, looking back at it, he deserved more minutes, and moving forward, that we probably have to reward him with that. And Karam's one of those guys that the more minutes he gets, probably the better he's going to get. I'm not sure. I don't know the answer to this if he's ever played in an environment like that
Sure.
before, but he certainly responded pretty well. And when we look back at his minutes, I think we'll be very, very happy with that.
Obviously, the biggest note is that Hudson not available again today. Do we know when he may be available back on the court?
I don't think we do know that. I know
Okay.
that he's had some, different um, procedures done, and they're still trying to determine that. I know that he is feeling better. He feels like, it has felt better, but that isn't necessarily a sign of anything until he has, more scans or X-rays or whatever they're going to end up doing. So, yeah, we could have used him tonight. Obviously, going into it, we felt like he would have been our second best matchup for both Mass and Price. And certainly
Agreed.
that hurts when you lose a guy like that. And the one thing about Hudson is Hudson's fearless. The environment would not have surprised him, would not have hindered him in any way. And yeah, I mean, but they had Connor Essegian out, so it's part of the game. You hear that in the NFL from week to week. Who's got who available, and it's part of the game. And you need other guys to step up, and Nebraska did, and obviously we didn't to the level that needs to be.
Blake Harper has another quiet performance sign. He kind of feels like the most important piece of this offense from the ability to score the basketball. What have you guys seen from him on the off nights that is easily correctable, if anything?
Well, the biggest thing is I think he was overwhelmed with the environment, and that shouldn't happen to him. I mean, he played at Kansas last year, and played well. I think he had 19 points at Kansas or whatever, but he was very anxious early on. Took some bad shots. Didn't have the right rotations defensively early, and part of that is the environment. Part of it is total lack of concentration. And part of it is, being in a different system for the first time. If you look at Nebraska, one of the big reasons that team is as successful as they are this early is all those guys. I shouldn't say all of them, but most of those guys are very, very familiar with that program and with that system. They've been there, they've done that, and it's part of who they are, and it's certainly a reason that they're experiencing this great success that they're having early.
What's up, Murph? I was able to get on. Um, and hey, just my question is really, can you think of a time where you coached, anytime in your career where you coached a guy that was so vital to your team that was just having the struggle of consistency like I'm seeing with Owen?
Yeah, it's a great observation, Casey, and I'm not surprised that you're the one that has said that. Yeah, I mean, I have. It's all part of the injury process. Just not being totally sure of what's next, and am I healthy? Can I do the things? I mean, when Owen first got here, he was playing above the rim on a consistent basis, both on offense and defense. And I think Lute said, and I don't know this for fact, but Lute said he's one of the leaders, maybe the leader in the Big Ten in shot blocks, and first or second for sure. And we just haven't seen that out of him. And you want to say it's the system, but I gotta believe it's more the injury still. Trying to be comfortable, knowing what he can and can't do.
But
What do
is
you
it trusting himself or is it trusting that he knows what to do?
A combination of both, Chase. I think that's, what I'm trying to say, I guess, is the trust in the knee that he can, explode and do things, and then trying to, learn and process a new system. I think it's a combination of both, and that's probably a really, really bad combination when you have two factors factored into, how you're going to play basketball. Because basketball is a game of quick decisions, and you can't really, you don't have time to readjust. It's not football where you play a play and then talk about it and get in the huddle and call a
Yeah.
different play. I mean, it's a fast moving game, and the system, as well as the knee injury, I think are the two biggest factors there.
you guys get a short turnaround here, less than a week before you get Kansas State coming to town. What do you think is the most easily correctable thing about this performance heading into that matchup on Saturday at 2:00?
I think more than anything, we got to be more physical. I mean, we got off to a really, really poor start where we just couldn't score, and we're defending fairly well. And then we cut it to 6. I think it was maybe 20-14, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they got 2 offensive rebounds. On the first offensive rebound, they missed. They got another offensive rebound and made a 3. And those, our margin for error is just not high enough to overcome those kind of things. I mean, we have to win every 50-50 ball. We have to shut teams down to one shot every possession. And when you don't do that, as I said, our margin for error just isn't, we're just to overcome those kind of things. So those are effort things. Those are things that, we can practice and we'll get better at moving forward. And, to answer your question, I think just that physicality is the part that we have to do a better job with.
Murph, do you worry at all about, and let me try to explain this question, but a lot of our defense, as you know, is built on scheming the other team, understanding what they're doing, and being able to stop them. But it also feels like we're having a hard time understanding what we need to do. Is that all part of the struggle of that it's just so much for guys right now that are new, trying to learn it still, that it's as you get in some of these games where you should be able to compete just based on the scheme that you're going to play, now you're not able to get that far because you're still having to teach the basics of what we do.
Yeah, Case, I think that's a great question. And to answer that, we had some breakdowns defensively for sure. But we also had 3 days to prep for these guys. And for the most part, I mean, it's not like they scored 90 points. I think they ended up with 71 points. So we did some good things defensively, just not as consistent as we need to be. Our issue tonight, and it's kind of been this issue every time that we've lost to Nebraska, is we struggle to make shots. And in the first half, I think we were 3 for 21, and I don't know, were 6 of those bad shots, maybe. So we had 15 pretty good looks from 3 with the right guy shooting it, and we made 3 of them. You hate to just say that, but at the same time, and again, credit to Nebraska. I'm not trying to take anything away from them defensively because they're very, very good and they fly at shooters. But we had 15 pretty good looks, and I don't know that for a fact. I'm just throwing that out there. And when you have that many good looks, you have to make 6 of those, or you have to make 7 of those, and we just didn't tonight. And we had been trending up with the shooting the last couple of games. So again, credit to Nebraska, but at the same time, you got to step up and make shots when the opportunity presents itself.
Well, Murph, we appreciate your time. We'll catch up with you as the season rolls on. Thanks for your time. Get home safe.
As always, guys, appreciate you guys, and thanks for having us. We'll
Thank
get
you.
this thing figured out. Thanks.
We're
Bye.
we're sticking with you through thick or thin, Murph. You know that, man.
All right. Thanks, fellas. Bye now.
That's great assistant coach Steve Murfeld joining us here on the Roll Jays podcast as Casey Matthews finally decides to show up to work and be here with us tonight. We appreciate it. Case, talking to Murph, I brought up the lack of ability to finding Owen early and got his thoughts on that. And he just talked about the point guards, the rotation tonight with Ty and Nick, and that being the reason that Ty kind of saw some more minutes than they expected tonight because of some of the stuff that Nick was just missing. in the first half there. And obviously, Ty's got experience in the system. There's a lot of reason for that too. But it's just really surprising to me that we're having this conversation still in December. But it's also, it's still December, so there's still a lot of season left to figure this out as well.
Yeah, there is. I mean, you can't abandon ship, like
Right?
it's
Absolutely not.
I think like was it you? Yeah, you sent me something that there's people online calling for Max job. I'm like, and I try not to look
Yeah.
at that much, but like I hope it's like kids. I hope it's kids that just have never understood that sometimes you face adversity and the
Right.
answer isn't to
There's a
just
lot of basketball left to play.
fire everybody. Like, what idiots are on there right now saying we need to get rid of Mac? Like, are you kidding me right now? Mac built this program. Like, and people can say yes, and Coach Altman did a phenomenal job. I'm not questioning that, but we're not where we are in terms of where this program sits without Greg McDermott. So any idiot that thinks that the answer to our problems is to get rid of him,
Yeah.
like, forgive me, but just delete the app. I think is a pretty common. That's one of those things now. Like, it's unbelievable.
Obviously, a ton of struggles. I think if you're, I think maybe the most concerning thing for me about this game is it feels like it's been the exact same defensive game plan for Nebraska for 4 consecutive years. They're obviously 3-1 within this physical, keep you out of the paint, make you shoot mid range and distant 3-point shots, and out rebound you strategy that Fred Hoiberg has implemented. The one time it didn't work is because Baylor Shireman just set the nets on fire inside Pinnacle Bank Arena, and they were able to shoot the lights out. Now, listen, that's kind of why you went out and spent the money you did in the offseason, right? It was to get some shooters that could do that. And I don't know if maybe being a little more finesse is how to define this team. But Murph's talked about it. I mean, they've got to find a way to become more physical because they clearly don't have the offensive paralysis to be able to shoot north of 40% from 3-point land to win games where they're being out physical.
No, they don't. And look, I think where to me the issue is, and I keep beating this dead horse, and I'm sorry, but it's just what I see is that one everybody has to be really good. There isn't anybody right now that I see that can just be great and just take over a game. And so everybody's got to be good. And tonight, what you saw is Owen didn't score, right? And when he's your starting five man, and you put a lot
Blake
of
only
money
had
into
1
him,
point.
it was insane. Blake had 1 point. Like, it's really hard to compete against anybody when you have a game like that. So, let alone like I mean, just trying to beat a good team, right? With those kind of performances is going to be really, really hard. But to me, what it comes down to is you've got to execute you got to execute what the game plan is. You definitely have to be tough, and you can control things like effort. You can control, did you box out? Did you not? You can control, did you set the screen where it needs to be set? Those are all things that are within your control. You the best you can do is you can practice, you can work on your jump shot, shoot good shots. Other than that, you can't control whether the ball goes in the hoop or not. And so it can't you can't always or we can't always boil it down to, well, we didn't hit shots. That's a huge part of it. But there's other parts of the game that could have allowed us to be in there, could have allowed us to be closer to where it would have felt within reach. But this game got out of hand quick in that second half. And when it does, it's a lot harder to like stir up whatever it is that you need to go out
Sure.
there and make a comeback, especially when you have a group of guys that still just, I think they like each other, but when I look out there, I don't see a team that's gelled at all yet. And it
You,
takes time, and it's going to take time.
you can't go 6 of 32 from the field in the first half. Like
No,
that. That's obviously
no.
not a recipe for winning. I don't care how you perform in the second half. And Creighton shot 50% from the field in the second half, but only attempted 20 shots. It just felt like, and it helped. It was a game in Lincoln, and Nebraska clearly got things rolling early, and you have that crowd and that early fast start that it's kind of hard to overcome that in its own sense. But that I mean, this is you might be able to circle this as maybe the worst all time performance under Greg McDermott.
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at it again. I mean, I'm not. I don't. I guess I don't. No disrespect at all to you, Jim. I don't really care about that stuff. Like, to
I don't
me,
either. I don't
yeah.
either. But I mean, like I that was more of a comment towards the the people that are clearly upset about this performance specifically.
Yeah.
Creighton shot 30% from the field, 24% from three, 10 of 17 at the free throw line. Just from an offensive standpoint, just a pretty low output.
Yeah, no, it was really bad. And the thing too is like this isn't one of those games where you can go home and like, well, we saw some good things. We didn't. And we didn't. And that's the way it goes. And so you've now got to just I mean, it sounds so cliche, but you just got to go to practice, put your head down and work, and and can control what you can control. You can't turn on each other. You start doing that, this thing gets the whole season starts to unravel. And it's just a matter of like going out there, doing what you're supposed to do every day, and again, and control what you can control. I believe that we can still be a good team. Yeah, I do. I mean, are you where you were hoping you'd be with competing with St. John's, competing with UConn and the like? No, you're not. But okay, so now we figured that out. Now we figure out how does this team compete, in the league. Because at the end of
Yeah.
the day, like, yes, this is a loss, and I mean, congratulations to all the Nebraska fans that congrats, you just won the biggest game of your year, and hopefully somehow you can break to win your first tournament game in your history. But at least tonight you won. You won this one, so congrats. My hat tip to you. But again, this is
Back to
one
Creighton for a
game.
minute. But back to Creighton for a minute. And the reason that I was just about to say that I was just about to say I don't think this is just one game is the Big East on all sense is down this season, right? Like it kind of looks like it's UConn, St. John's. You could throw Georgetown into that equation, maybe after what we saw tonight. But it really feels like this game was important because it was a quad one win. And with the way the Big East looks right now, you're not going to have too many more of those left on your schedule. And two of them for sure are going to have to be on the road, probably in the Garden and obviously in Storrs, Connecticut, where Creighton doesn't have a great level of success in either one of those two environments. So if that's why I feel like tonight was maybe a little bit more important than just a non-conference in-state rivalry game, just
Yeah.
because of the way the rest of the season looks right now.
But this is kind of what we were talking about the other day, though. I feel like this game means it just, and this is honest, like it means more for Nebraska because in this game, if you lose this game to a Creighton team that's not very good, when you're 8-0 and you're like, oh man, we might actually have a good team. It's one of those moments where like, gosh, are we what we hope we are? For Creighton, I don't believe that. I believe for Creighton, it's like, all right, it's another you know, it's another bad night. That's like, all
Yeah,
right, we're still struggling here. We're still trying to figure it out. And like, I don't have any misconceptions. We're not a good team right now. Bottom line, like that's nobody should be telling you otherwise. And now it's just a matter of how do you find a way to get better every day. And um, still believe we have some pieces to do it, but on days like this, you're kind of like hanging your head, like, man, like what do we do? And that's where
sure.
you just have to trust. You got to trust Mac. You got to trust in the staff that that we can do what we need to do. But it is what it is.
I'll be interested to see how much the starting lineup changes going down the stretch. I think Austin Swartz has done enough when the light comes on. You got to find a way to get him on the court more. I don't know if that's putting him
Yeah,
into the starting role. Obviously, we saw tonight that Mac doesn't have any problem taking Nick Graves out if Ty Davis is playing better or able to see the court a little bit more. And
right.
that doesn't mean that's going to be the case every single night. That was clearly the case tonight, but even Ty had some struggles while he was out there too. So I just there clearly needs to be some sort of change, and you can't have the knee jerk reaction of changing for the sake of change. But there clearly you've got to try something different because
Yeah.
this this current rotation just obviously isn't gelling well
There's
together.
yeah. The only thing is, there's not much to you can try. The guys have to figure it out, or they don't.
True.
I don't. And when hopefully you get Hudson back, that'll help some because right now not having that athleticism is a problem. But you know, you need him back. You need him back. But there's not a whole lot, man. There's not a whole lot you can really like just go and change. I mean, he's playing all kinds of different lineups, and there's nothing really that's sticking. And so yeah, I mean, this is one of those nights, man, where you're just like, I'm just glad I'm not in the profession anymore. These are long nights. These are, and then honestly, to have a week to sit on this it's
Yeah.
rough. It's rough, especially when it's at the hands of if your rival, the team that you want to beat and all that stuff. It's not a fun experience. But again, like you gotta suck it up and go to work and figure it out.
Creighton falls tonight 71-50 at PBA in Lincoln to Nebraska. That's going to do it for us here on the Roll Jays podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Big East Energy. And don't forget to give us a thumbs up and give us your comments on YouTube as well. Thanks for watching. I'm Jimmy Allen. That's Casey Matthews. We'll see you next week.